Hi, I'm Kyle, and this is Aussie Dog Garage. Today I'm going to be swapping out injectors in my 1994 Ford Bronco with a 5.8 liter 351 Windsor. Stick around. So swapping out injectors isn't terribly difficult in a 351 Windsor. It's pretty much just a matter of removing a few things and getting to the injectors. That's the hardest part, honestly, is getting that intake plenum off. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So I'll walk you through it today. So first off, you need to have all the parts. So let's take a look at those. Really all you need is your intake plenum gasket, which I have a Felpro one. If you want the part number, there it is. And your injectors. I got these are stock injectors. The stock 19-pound injectors. I had them rebuilt and flow tested. They gave me a nice printout of, quite honestly, how bad my other injectors, or these injectors, were before they rebuilt them. It's a nice little printout. You can see leak test. I think 3 of them failed originally. So, yeah. That's why I'm glad I got them rebuilt and flow tested. So that's really all you need. You got your intake plenum gasket, your injectors, and next up you need some tools to start removing some things. So as I said, you need to remove your intake plenum, so pretty much all this stuff needs to go away. So let's start on that. Alright, so first step in getting the intake plenum off is starting to remove all your ancillary things. So I'm going to start by getting rid of the intake tubes. A little bit of fuel is going to come out of that. So this is your coolant line that flows through your throttle body, so your throttle body doesn't freeze and pull the temperature with the air and is going through there. Now, Intake plenum's held on with 6 bolts. 5 are on the outside. And on the corners, which the front isn't too hard to get to. The rear is a pain, and then there's a center one in back that's a pain, and that's a Torx bolt. So, I'm going to need a longer extension. Having a longer extension helps. Alright, brought the camera down so you can see a little better. So, a little bracket right there that I removed. There's just a ground wire that attaches right there on the intake plenum. And just various sensors that I've unplugged. And the vacuum tee. And finally, I'm going to start pulling out. There's a bolt there. There's one underneath the spark plug wire there. 2 in the middle, and you have to go down through that hole in the middle of the intake to get to the, actually it's right there, to get to a Torx bolt that's under there. There's one on the outside, that's a regular bolt, and then 2 in back. So those 6 bolts, the 4 in the front aren't too bad, the ones in the back can be a pain. So let's get to it. And I got my CD valve still attached. Do that. Perfect. Like that, I believe. So there's your old intake gasket. And first thing I do is I'm going to tape up those holes so I don't drop anything down. Alright, so with the intake plenum taken out, you can see you got 4 injectors right there and 4 on the other side. So you just have, there's 4 bolts. You can see that hold the fuel rail right here. Take those 4 bolts out and lift the fuel rail up. And then you can pull out the injectors, unhook them all, and then replace them. Alright, so now if there's one more step, I'll show it to you here. I'm just gonna move this over. Unless you want a face full of gasoline, you have right here, sorry, I'm pointing the camera the wrong way, little Schrader valve on your fuel rail. Take the little cap off, and like any other Schrader valve, you just push that button down in the middle and relieves the pressure. So I'll get a towel rag and put over the top of that, relieve the pressure, and then I can pull the injectors out without getting a face full of gasoline. Put this around it and grab my screwdriver. Just push down on that little Schrader valve. Get the fuel pressure off this. Alright, and fuel pressure's off. Not a ton of gas, but alright, oh, I gotta get these unplugged. Yes, you're going to spill gas in there. Injectors, even though there's no pressure, you still have gas in the fuel line. Alright, so as you can see, the injectors just have an O-ring on the top and bottom that seal them, and a little pintle on the bottom that sprays. So these are 4-hole injectors. You can, you're probably not going to be able to see it in the camera, but there's 4 little holes. Anyway, these are injectors that I bought offline, or off a Bronco forum. Supposedly rebuilt about 10,000 miles ago, flow tested, all that kind of stuff. Then I went ahead and rebuilt them again, so there's a little screen on the intake side, or on the fuel side, that you have to replace, 2 O-rings and the pintle. I also flushed them with brake cleaner when I did it, and you just actuate the solenoid with like a 9-volt battery, and clean them out that way. I think I did a piss poor job. I think what's going on here is I had a couple injectors that were leaking, and the reason I'm swapping these out is when I'd shut down the engine, if I restarted it within about 5 or 10 minutes, it would start up just fine. If I wait, when it's hot, if I wait about an hour to 2 hours, it didn't want to start. And I think it's because these were leaking down. And how I kind of ended up diagnosing it was I'd noticed that it's a EFI engine. If I push down on the throttle pedal, all that does is open up the throttle body, and giving it more air, it would start up better, and I'd have some black smoke coming out. So I think these are just bleeding down, slowly bleeding into the intake, and then causing it to basically run rich. If I wait 10 hours, 12 hours, the next day, whatever, it would start up just fine. So then I did a fuel pressure test. Fuel pressure was perfect while it was running. Shut off the engine, and you could watch it slowly bleed down over a couple of minutes. And I think that's the pressure wood. So I think, as I was saying, it just is, these are bleeding off. And as I noticed, when I hit the Schrader valve to reduce the pressure on the lines, there was very little pressure in there. So I'm pretty sure these were leaking. So that's why I wanted to get those other injectors rebuilt professionally and have them flow tested. And you can see all sorts of videos on YouTube on how to rebuild your injectors for yourself. I don't think it works out well. Yeah, you can put new O-rings on, but as far as flow testing them and cleaning them, you're not going to do a very good job. At least I didn't, and I thought I did, but we'll see. We'll see when I put these new injectors in. So let's go ahead and get that done. That's easy enough. It's just the reverse of what I started. So new injectors, as I said, they flow tested them. I think it was $13.50 each. So $100, $150 with shipping to get. I already had these injectors. These were my old injectors I took out. So I think this is going to be a much better deal. So let's get them in there. Oh, one other thing, to put these in, you never want to put an O-ring in dry. So you use a little bit of engine oil, just a little bit, just lube them up, and then stick them in. Which I need to go grab some. What I've found works best is getting them into the intake first, and then getting the fuel rail onto them. So that's how I'm going to go about this. I'm going to stop this here. I've got the intake started, and at this point I'm just going to reinstall everything. So I'll go ahead and do that and then show you the finished product. So it's all back together. I got everything hooked back up, and got the air tubes all hooked up, all the sensors plugged back in. So now I'm going to prime it and see if I've got fuel pressure. I'm going to do that a couple of times. And then make sure I don't have any leaks anywhere. Seems to be running pretty good, so. I don't see or smell any leaks, so. Good. Alright. Well, we'll see if that helps my hard warm starts. Thanks for watching. That was me putting injectors into a 94 Ford Bronco with a 351 truck engine. So it's not terribly difficult. The main thing is getting that intake plenum off and having another gasket to put on there once you're done. But otherwise it's pretty simple. It's just unbolting it, unbolting a few ancillary items, and throwing in the new injectors. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Those likes actually do help. So appreciate it, and come back again, watch another video. Thanks.